Hello and welcome to this episode of Not Just Ghost Stories. I'm your host Josh, joined by Jackie and Laura. We are a small team of experienced paranormal investigators, and here we discuss different locations that we've investigated, along with a little history and the paranormal evidence that we found. Today we're going to be discussing the old Paulding Jail in Paulding, Ohio. We have a little bit of history on this, and Laura, would you like to read the history for us?
Yeah. So, Old Paulding Jail was contracted to be built in 1874. Due to there being no railroad passing through the jail there in Paulding, it wasn't completed until 1876. The cost was $25,000. It is a 3-story building meant to house prisoners, the sheriff, and his family. The basement is cut from limestone, with the 2 upper floors being brick and stone. In 1977, the sheriff's living quarters were moved out, and in 2006, the jail was closed. It was then used for county storage until 2013, when the county decided to demolish it. Public outcry saved the building, and it was put up for sale. Jeff and Casey Hollis, LLC, All Trades Historical Restoration, purchased the building and began restorations. During the restoration, an area was found in the basement that had been bricked over. When the wall was removed, they found walkways and several hidden cells. Also uncovered was what they thought was evidence from a 50-year-old murder case of Nancy Eagleson. November 13th of 1960, the 14-year-old Nancy had been abducted on her way home from the movies. The next day, her body was recovered. She had been raped and shot. The shoe that was unearthed in 2013 had no DNA recovered from it and could not be linked to the girl. Also, the evidence from this case that has been stored in the jail has been missing for many years. In April of 2015, the jail was again sold, this time to its current owner, Shelley Burke Robertson. She is also the founder of the paranormal group 187 PSI. As a local, she is restoring the jail to its original and plans to turn it into a museum highlighting the jail and the sheriffs that live there. She also plans on using it as a paranormal research center and is currently offering paranormal investigations. And then there was a couple of, this is like the county as a whole, these next pieces are just to give you an idea of what was there before the jail. Before 1820, when the county of Paulding was settled, it was Indian country. The Ottawas lived on the land before the white settlers. By 1750, they had moved on, and the Miamis, Prinkanal, Delaware, Shawnee, Kickapoo, Muskogee, Huron, Weiss, Wyandot, and Mohawk had moved in. A lot of those probably not pronounced correctly. In 1783, General George Washington sent troops into the area to subdue the Indian and begin building forts for the settlers' protection. He also promoted the construction of canals to provide the interior with a means of transportation.
All right, thank you for the history lesson.
Can I and I can interrupt, and this is probably my fault. I was the one that typed it up, but I don't want to get this wrong. Shelley's paranormal group is called 187 PI.
Okay.
Oh.
So not PSI, it's just PI. All right.
Totally not my fault. It's completely Jackie's fault.
So, the reason why we decided to do this one is we, like, other ones that we've talked about, Hinsdale or Octagon, we were not called there. We did it because they were running a special and it was cheap. And as a paranormal investigator, we all know that we have to pay for those investigations. Sometimes we get them, at a discount cost, or somebody wants to call us in for us to do something. But when we want to do an investigation, we're like, it's time, we have to go do something. We're going to look around. So, and all the proceeds go to try to help the building itself. So that's one of the things that we really liked about it also. When we got there, you can definitely tell the building is historical. It's got its own type of, I guess you can say, aura to it, where, it just screams out, hey, I need to be rebuilt, but it still has a really good structure to it. What do you guys remember about first pulling up to the building?
I remember it looks like a bank or a government office.
Yeah.
It doesn't look like a jail. It's a real nice brick building and kind of square. And yeah, and I also remember that it had like 12 driveways because I didn't know where I was supposed to go.
Yep.
Yeah, I was the same. It was not at all what I expected it to look like. It's actually a pretty building. It's even designed nicely at the top before you get to the attic.
Yeah. A lot of good architecture. You can't even really tell it's a jail until you walk around the back where they actually have like a fenced in area for like fire escape and stuff like that. In that back area, that's about the only time you go, oh, okay, there's the jail part. So when we got in there, the owner, now Shelly Robertson, she introduced herself, kind of showed us around the building where we can start to set up things. Explained a lot of different stuff. So from there, we decided to go on. We were excited to get into everything. And do you guys remember where we started? Was it there's a basement? There's the main floor that we came in on. There was a second floor, and then really like a third floor kind of area too.
We started in the basement for
Yep.
some reason.
Well, I think it's so we're going to start down there. The basement was a very intriguing area. It all limestone. It's got these tunnels that run through it. They're not like, a maze or anything like that. They're kind of squared up. They have little rooms offset into them that are very rough, have, dirt floors, everything like that. But that place was very intriguing to us. I'd probably say this is where we spent a lot of our investigation at different times throughout the night. Jackie, what do you remember a lot about that basement area?
And I may be wrong about this, but I'm thinking as we came down the stairs, I remember Laura saying she felt like there should have been a table there or something.
I do remember saying that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It just and there wasn't any table there. It was actually just a bare room that went into another room with shelves where they had some, I guess it was evidence storage and stuff.
Yeah.
But and that stuck out because I'm like, that's weird that she would think there needs to be a table down here.
I wonder if that was thinking of it in hindsight, maybe where guards set for those down there. I mean, there's only one way in and one way out down there. It's underground.
Yeah. Yeah, you can't get any. There's no other doors or any entrance way. It's literally just from the building itself. And when you go up those stairs, you're literally in the middle of the building. So, you have, different ways. We had theories as to why, it had little different cells and stuff down there, but there's no actual evidence found as far as why they had cells. I don't know if maybe it was a solitary because there's no outside light that comes in down there. Or if they used it as some kind of storage spot, or anything else like that.
No, it was totally used for people.
Yeah. But the rooms off to the side kind of tell you that it was used for
You
something.
can feel that nobody was down there because they wanted to be, and it wasn't just storage. There's just too much energy down there.
Yeah. Now, going down there, we had a couple other people with us during this investigation. But Jackie, you had ran into a Indian.
Yes. In the tunnels that they had uncovered through the restoration, it was Laura and I, and then we were also with Carrie and Andy of Searching the Mist, and they were out in the walkways, and Josh was out chasing shadows in the walkways, and there was this Indian. He was just standing there. He was in full dress, and since we had problems with Josh with Indians, I thought, well, I'm going to talk to him. And I talked to him about Josh, and he told me the story. He actually showed it, not an interpretive dance, but actually there were pictures that he showed, and they were in color because it was a very bloody story. Basically, there was a war. I got the impression he was Mohawk. He may not have been. I'm not up on Indian tribes and stuff, but I just got the impression he was Mohawk, and I believe that he was attacked by the Shawnee, perhaps also the Cherokee, because those are the ones that hate Josh. So he showed me that there was a war, and there were the village was involved too, because there was not just warriors dying, but women and children. And I don't know how he did it, but basically they had a volunteer, or they volunteered Josh's ancestor, and what they did to him, they turned him into some sort of monster. And I saw this. He showed me this, and literally, Josh's ancestor went out and ripped people apart. I saw him grabbing people, ripping arms off. The blood is flying. He ripped everybody apart. If you know, if they were the other tribe, they got killed, whether they were trying to surrender or whatever. And at some point in the story, Josh came by, and I called him in. Josh, come here, you got to listen to this. Josh was standing next to me, Laura's standing there, and I assumed both of them, and Carrie and Andy were also there. I assumed Josh and Laura were getting the same story I was. It wasn't until a couple months, whenever we did Beale Manor, that I found out that Josh didn't get anything I got. I did ask Laura, and she did not get, I believe she saw the Indian, but she did not get the story. Why he told me the story, at that point I didn't know, but I through some things as in research, I have a theory why I was told the story. And this Indian here, since Josh helped his tribe survive and win this battle, this Indian was like, yeah, I got no problem with Josh. He turned him into this monster, and he ripped people apart. Yeah, we're good with it.
It was almost like he was excited, kind of. I was there, almost like I was a famous person.
Yeah.
To him, and but he didn't really. I could feel the presence. He didn't talk to me. He didn't show me anything. I don't know if he was afraid to talk, but this is where we really started to get into what was going on with me from prior investigations that we had done. We had talked about the Blue House in Warsaw. And how I kept getting called out to a field, things that were happening to me at Big Bone, and all the way through there. So this is just now another little piece of that puzzle that we're trying to figure out. But he didn't show me anything. Laura, you said you could feel him, but he didn't show you anything either, right?
No, it was just more like he knew I was there and I knew he was there. I seen what Jackie described, but I got none of that conversation. I just quite frankly didn't get any.
Yeah. And we're trying to figure out why, and it almost seems like the whole entire place, all of Paulding Jail, for some reason, a lot of times you can go in someplace, Laura, and you have some type of intuition, or things are talking to you or making you understand. But Paulding Jail, the whole entire thing, like nothing ever really came out at you, right? Or talked to you or try to figure anything out, right?
Yeah, I don't remember being shocked by anything there.
Yeah.
There are things there.
Oh, yeah.
You can feel them throughout the building, but there was nothing that was like, oh, I gotta bring some more equipment. I know it's right here and can, hopefully get some sort of evidence. This just wasn't that for me.
Yeah. And I mean,
I think that we were there for Jackie. If you believe things happen for a reason and there's a grand scheme, this ghost hunt wasn't, we were just there for support animals.
And you sucked at it too.
I think I held on pretty tight. I mean, I was there.
That is true. When we went there too, also knowing that by then we had figured out that it was only Cherokee and Shawnee that wanted to kill Josh, and I actually didn't know Shawnee were up in the northern half of Ohio. We figured, because we went to Hinsdale and no problem with those Indians there. Seneca, they didn't want to kill Josh. So I assumed, I didn't even think about Indians or having to once again haul Josh's ass out of the fire and stuff.
Yeah, and this time we didn't have to do any of that, really. I mean, it was just...
No, he just told the story, he told it to me, and he told it in great detail, and he told it in color.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, when you're in a dark building and you're hearing this story from an Indian. Josh was standing next to me, and I don't know if I did, but if I didn't, it took all my will not to step away from him when I saw what his ancestors did.
Yeah, and it's something that we'll get into once we get into um Beale Manor, which will probably be our next.
Yeah, and you'll probably hear me repeat it, but the Indian race, they were not peaceful people. I
No.
don't know I know that a lot of history books teach us that in the U.S., but they lie. They were extremely territorial. They had to be. And their warriors were warriors. They didn't feel bad when they had to do those things.
Yeah,
So what we picture is absolutely like, oh my goodness, back then would have been rallied around.
exactly. So, this one here, it kind of astounded us. I mean, this is at the early stages of our investigation. I mean, that was where we really kind of started at. We decided after this, okay, and at one point I remember Jackie getting mad at me because I wasn't really focused on the ending. There was a lot of shadow play downstairs in that basement, and I was chasing that around. And Jackie's like, "Hey, you're getting answers over here," and I'm like, "No, I'm not really getting anything, but I want to see this." um, but I wasn't scared or even out of my mind in this place, so which told me I was comfortable, I was good throughout the whole entire building, which was a good thing. So at that point we ended up taking a break. We decided to do more of the rest of the building. I think we ended up going up on the where the sheriff would live, up on the third floor. There was a bedroom up there that supposedly a child was in and died of from sickness or something like that. Do you guys remember that room?
Yeah.
I just know that I remember it being a little girl's room. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, the owner had said that she thinks it was a little girl. We couldn't find anything to back any of that up. There wasn't any record or anything on that where somebody had died up in that area of the building. But for some reason, what I can't remember is, Laura, do you remember what you said?
Yeah, I didn't think that it's a little girl. There is something there, but it's not a little girl. And the more time you spend trying to figure it out, the least it looks like, a little girl. I'm not saying it was evil. It's just not a little girl.
And also, because I was with you at one point in that room, it was kind of mad at you because I think you weren't falling for the little girl.
Yeah.
So,
And I can remember that.
It might not be evil, but it definitely can't be positive if it's lying about what it is. Because why would you do that?
Well,
if you were in the right, you wouldn't do that.
Well, the question is did it just want to seek the attention and maybe want all the attention? So, because at this point, even the owner, she was like, she spends a lot of time in that room and everything else. Is it maybe the attention seeker style type of spirit?
or maybe it didn't know it was lying. Thinking back to Hinsdale, when I asked that God, I asked him what he was, and he told me he didn't know. So maybe this little girl didn't know either, but for some reason, more people go up there if she presents as a little girl than if she had presented in her true form.
That makes sense. Yeah.
So, I mean, that's just one of the questions that we had a hard time answering in this place. And there was quite a few different ones that we had a hard time answering in this place. Everything kind of seemed a little backwards in certain areas. Even down on the floor below where the little girl's room, on the second floor of the jailer side, there's a bedroom style type of room in there. They have a whole bunch of beds set up so investigators can stay overnight. But Carrie was not comfortable in that room whatsoever.
No, she wasn't.
And for some reason just did not want to be in that room. She said she couldn't do it. There was a little closet off to the side. That's where she really wanted to stay away from. She just said, no, I can't be in this room. There was no exact reason why. that she could figure out, but for some reason it was just very uncomfortable to her. She was almost scared to be up in there.
And we, as investigators, you can get that way. You can be the bravest person in the world, but there are some places that terrify me. And I'm not talking scared, I'm talking terrified. And I have said to people, I don't want to be by myself in this place. There is nothing wrong with that. By not listening to that feeling, who knows what trouble you can get in and stuff. So she was even talking about driving home that night. And I said, hey, why don't we all just sleep downstairs? I mean, we get it.
I
We
think,
don't hold it against them.
yeah. And if most of us, didn't really feel much in there, and Carrie was that way, which is not the way that Carrie is for those that don't know her, maybe it was completely focused on her. And that's why nobody else could pick it up.
Yeah. Well, the same thing with the Indian down in the basement. Why did I get this story? But you and Josh are standing right next to me, and Carrie's and Andy are on the other side, and they got nothing and stuff. And I also want to say that is the first and last time I saw the Indian. I
Yeah.
went down there looking for him, and he never presented himself.
Yeah, we went back down there later on in the night, and it was like he had just totally disappeared. There was no feeling, there was no nothing of
Yeah.
him. I remember you kind of searching around, just saying, it's like he was never here.
I think we tried sensory depth down there, didn't we?
Yeah.
To see if we could get him, and it was deadline.
Yep. And then and the reason why we ended up deciding to stay on the first floor, that was probably one of the more comfortable areas in the whole entire place. It was the living room of what would have been, the sheriff or ward, whoever of that jail. That's where their living room area was, and we felt very comfortable on that floor, so that's why we kind of stayed there.
Well, and also we went there with the fact that this is a jail. We assumed we would get more in the jail cells.
Mhm.
And I don't think, did any of us ever talk to a prisoner there?
One, well, and here's the thing: the place is a shadow figure magnet. I mean, there's shadow figures on all of them, and Laura, I'm going to tell you, you probably don't remember, but I remember you talking on the first floor, the main floor. I'll kind of paint a picture real quick of the jail cells. There's 3 floors there also. You have the first floor, which they said was the men's holding. You had the second floor, which they said was women's holding. Plus, there was a room off to the side where there was that's where they would hang people back in the early days. And then the third floor was kind of like a large open room area where they would say supposedly they would hold more of the lesser crimes, misdemeanor style type of things were up there, less threats or anything else. Just kind of held them as a group up there. On the first floor, in the first cell on your left-hand side as you're walking through the middle of it, there was a prisoner that supposedly hung himself in that one because of child support. Do you remember this?
I remember that story, yeah.
So supposedly he hung himself to child support. As we were doing an investigation in there, for some reason, Laura just went, I think it was about the only time that something really just kind of came to you. You're like, he never hung himself here. It wasn't, he never hung himself here in this area. And then we ended up getting confirmation that he never hung himself in that area. So that was kind of the one where we were like, okay, that was about the only time we really got anything from a prisoner.
Yeah, and really that story already had holes in it because his sentence, I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was little.
Yeah.
Like, he wasn't going to be there forever. There was no reason to.
Yeah. There was no reason to really do that, overall. But what I will say is the shadow play in this place. I could stand, there's a walkway that goes behind the cells on both floors. You can stand back there and watch the shadows peek out at you, look. You can go down there and try to find them. You can't find them. But when you turn around, all of a sudden there's another one, kind of moving out and moving in. The shadow play in that place is just amazing to me. I love shadow play overall. That's one of my favorite things. If I can actually see shadows moving, most of the time they were all kind of, regular regular size human. You could see the figure. Uh, that just, gets me all excited for things and chasing things. And then people are wondering where I'm at because I'm just running.
It's a great place to play hide and seek. If you're studying shadows or have more questions or, you're researching that, this is a good place for that.
Yeah.
It really is because it's on all floors and it's literally like they play peekaboo. I mean, you'll see what looks like a head come around a corner and then go back. So you could probably document a lot of that if you had time.
Yeah. I mean, for me overall, no, we didn't get any EVPs. We got some weird pictures, as far as on the full spectrum camera. Some odd. Now, I'm not an orb person. I every time I see orbs on a video or something, I'm really doubting them because dust especially especially in an IR style type of camera, can show up and look like an orb, and then dust, depending on airflow in the room, can move different ways. So I'm just kind of really weird about orbs. But in these pictures, you can watch something just move, especially downstairs in the basement area in the tunnels. Laura had taken multiple pictures. The camera's not moving, but this thing is. So is it dust? Maybe, but it's really large compared to the actual tunnel itself. If I had to guess, we're probably looking at down at the end of the tunnel. And if you were right up on it, you're probably looking in diameter about 3 feet in diameter of how it works. And it moves. And then all of a sudden you see this little tiny one off to the side, but then they move kind of down and into the wall midway. And I'm like, well, this is just kind of different,
Yeah.
trying to figure it out. Some weird light play on the full spectrum is another thing that we caught, but I don't think, Jackie, you never caught any EVPs on yours, right?
No.
And we didn't catch any. We didn't catch anything on video.
No, we did have that one, I guess you want to call it electronic anomaly. They had, I think there were 3 phones there.
Yes.
Where the visitor would be on one side and the prisoner would be on the other side, and you pick up the phone. And these phones are old. They were like still rotary dial phones and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
They're not hooked up. But yet, when you picked up that phone and put it to your ear, there was some sort of static that you could hear.
Well, and it was, you can get into both sides of that thing. And even when the other person would pick up, you couldn't hear, you can kind of hear them through it. But the static was just kind of crazy. We're looking, there's no lines running. There's no nothing, but you had this static noise, which was interesting to us. And we tried to, I think the phones kind of gave off some type of EMF field, didn't they?
We did have the K2 there, and it did light up.
Yeah, I think it was just very minute, but it did light up a little bit. So there is some pretty cool stuff. And I think it's awesome that they're turning the building into a history style museum, but also a paranormal research area. I think it'll be really amazing for paranormal research because there's so much little small stuff that you need to find out inside there. Now, as far as the building overall, what did you guys think of the paranormal investigation?
Well, like I say, we figure it's a jail. We're going to be talking to prisoners. And we did spend a lot of time in the jail cell, but we didn't get a lot from the jail cell. You would just get little blurbs everywhere, like the phones. We picked up the phones just because, well, we're paranormal investigators. We play in touch with everything. Knowing that they weren't working, you're just like, let's pretend we're talking on the phone, and then you get static in your ear. So, of course, then you got to investigate them and stuff, and going through where the sheriff lived. And it's set back more. I think it was, I know in 77, the sheriff no longer lived there, but I think the age of the room was even more set back a little bit.
I'm sure it probably hadn't been remodeled or upgraded, in 20 years prior to that.
And, it was just... was different. And also, I guess for me, having the Indian there, which you're kind of digesting that and stuff, so I thought it was a good ghost hunt, but talking about the amount of evidence we got, we didn't get that much evidence.
I think that it was just worth going for Jackie to get the story. So that's that was the highlight of it for me. But yeah, it as a ghost hunter, it's slow. It's one of the slower ones, but a lot of them are that way. So
We've been on enough that you kind of understand ghost hunting is like when you walk into somebody's house that you've never been there before. Because you don't know each other, it's your first time, you're on your best behavior and stuff like that. So, you're not showing them the room where the bloody heads are and things. And sometimes ghost hunting is like that. The first time you're there, you get just a little bit, but then, you go there 5 or 6 times and you've got the whole paranormal universe right at your feet there.
plus, there's not been a lot of paranormal hunts there as far as time wise. I mean, it's not like she's owned that for, and there's been 500 ghost hunts done there. Those things build up over time. The thing that is not a little girl, but is definitely there, it can build from people being there. So I would still go back just to see if there's any difference from outside energy that's been brought in since.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and here's kind of my theory on Old Paulding Jail. The place is awesome as far as historical views, shadow figures. I think now, when did we do this? Probably about a year ago, a little over a year ago.
Yeah.
I would love to go back now and see things, but I think the main purpose for us, like I said, it was cheap. We wanted to go do a ghost hunt. We found this place. We're like, we got to go. But I think, Jackie, even though you weren't called there, I think you were meant to go there for a reason. And that was the reason of the Mohawk wanted to say something, and he wanted to help us get another piece of what was going on with me at that time. Up to this point, this is over a couple years time, between the Blue House and everything. I was tired of getting attacked.
We were tired of rescuing him.
Yeah.
Sweet Springs. It was before Paulding Jail. And it started giving us a piece to the puzzle in order to try to put this together. Even during all of this, Laura's from the South, right? Where you're from, it was a major Indian territory down there.
Mm-hmm.
And we, decided to kind of take a nice week down there, just hiking in different areas. I was getting attacked, and we were trying to figure this out. So this is kind of one of the things that stair-stepped us into trying to figure out what exactly is going on. Once Jackie saw what had happened to my ancestor and everything else, this now starts the next chapter of what's going on and how we're going to take care of things. So that's one of the reasons why I think we ended up having to go to Paulding Jail. I don't think that you were called there, but I think for some reason you were pulled there.
And also, in dealing with the Indians, and I'm not being critical, but dealing with the Indians, there's a lot of stuff they won't talk about. And when you have a problem and it's something they won't talk about, you're kind of left with nowhere to go. So at least we found the one Indian that would talk to us.
Yeah. So, I mean, we had done different things, and we're going to get into that more later on, but this is we're kind of getting into my story now at this point, and it's going to be a roller coaster story. I'm going to just tell you all to buckle up as we go through more things here, because it gets a little crazy. I know it was crazy on my side. It was crazy on my family's side. It was crazy on Jackie's side, and overall. So, but going back to Old Paulding Jail for the last time, overall, what did you guys think of it?
I liked, and this is just totally aesthetics and stuff like that, but there is a garage there, and that is the room they allow us to, that's like our home base. And it's nice and big, and it's, you come out the door and you're right there by the stairs and things like that. So I love the setup of the place that she has for ghost hunters and stuff. It's really leaning more towards people to do ghost hunts.
Yeah. Even the garage door worked where we could put that up to bring all of our stuff in without having to try to go up and down stairs and through anything. You could just literally walk it in, which was great.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was a fabulous host. She's funny.
Yeah,
She's cool to hang out with. So we're going to go back eventually, I'm sure.
definitely. So this is definitely one I want to go back to.
And make sure that you guys go and look on Facebook, because these pictures that we took outside the building that we didn't really talk about, because there's no way for me to know it's paranormal, but they are really cool looking. And I still don't know why they did it. So we'll post those and you can let us know if you think you know what it is.
Well, that's the same way. There is one. Our next one will be Beale Manor, and I posted a picture of something I took from outside the building, and I would like everybody's opinion on what they think it is, because I know what I think it is, but I'm just like, what?
So, I mean, any last words on Old Paulding Jail or anything else that's going on? No? All right. Well, with that being said, this has been Not Just Ghost Stories. We have been your host, Josh.
Laura.
And Jackie.
And until next time, you can find information and contact us on our website at notjustghoststories.com and see evidence that we've discussed on Facebook at Not Just Ghost Stories. Thanks.